think that is also a great introduction to the panel today. We have, it was a very tight, we didn't know, is Sarah going to make it? Is she going to be able to traverse London? She did.
Acne has never felt so far away.
But no, we're super happy that you're in your seat. So congrats on that. And you're definitely a contender for at least the most tenacious, resilient, just keep going, gritty attendee today. What I'll do, I will actually turn off the light because it's literally in your face in the literal sense. I think. So with me today, and I will very much, I hope to play a sidekick role, because I think the conversation will actually be most interesting between two leading practitioners today. Both Perry and Sarah are with us because they work with key ESG. So we hope to, through that, allow them to speak through the experiences they have had in terms of the key ESG team and the software. But more importantly, we've learned this morning from the IFRS panel. We learned what's coming up on the regulatory standards there. We then had a discussion with our partners at PwC about how to set up the right governances. So that's the context the room has had. Now, we'd love to hear from you both in terms of, okay, so how do you actually do it? And how have you seen this in different organizations? And particularly, so as a very brief intro, Sarah, today heading up sustainability at Wrightbus. But you hail from experience in several large organizations, Electrolux, so you've seen different models probably in different levels of maturity. And then Perry with us today from Witter, and I'll let you, of course, also both describe yourself, relevant background even better, but from an elevator manufacturer. So I've seen that perspective for the last 8 years, and before that automotive, so two industry focuses. So maybe what I'll start with a brief intro to the sense that what have been the different experiences you've had and how have those different organizations gone about it? And from there on, I have a few thought starters, but also very happy to let you guys run the conversation. So thank you both. So maybe Sarah, you want to start with?
Sure. It does work. Yes, so lovely to see you guys. I feel like I've earned this panel. I joined Wrightbus 6 months ago. And I'll talk about Wrightbus a little bit more in a minute, but I've got a long-standing 15-year career in various senior roles in corporate sustainability, Mars, then Unilever, and then most recently Electrolux, which they are a big Swedish appliance maker. So when we later talk about governance and the approach to sustainability and how you embed it, Unilever goes without saying, but also Electrolux, very, very well advanced. And I wanted to have a change and switch it up a bit. So joined Wrightbus, and Wrightbus it's a really cool story. Just to take a moment to say that, because we hear a lot about the ESG agenda, slipping off the list of priorities, and it being harder to make the business case forward, and the demand not being there, and all of that is true. And I'd be the first person who's seen it firsthand. But Wrightbus is extraordinary because Wrightbus went into administration in 2019, was bought by Joe Bamford, who has got a big green private equity fund and an extraordinary vision on green hydrogen, and really was trying to create demand, and hence buying a bus company. So that company went into administration. Joe Bamford bought it. It was 40 people were left. We are now in 2025. We are between 2,300 to 2,400 people, and this phenomenal growth was done by pivoting from over 95% diesel buses to over 95% zero emission buses. So I think it's a really wonderful story in terms of green jobs do exist, green growth does exist. You can, make it core and center of your business model and your growth model. So I think it's a good story for all of us. But yes, we are part of a bigger group of company that is called the Hydra B company and a fund, and hence our relationship with key ESG, because we are one of the portfolio companies, obviously a very big one of this fund. And hence I'm here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Great story. Really nice to hear. In Victor, we are not like this condition yet with zero emission, but is of course the final goal for us. We are also manufacturing elevator components company, 13 manufacturing sites all over the world, and 9 trading offices again all around the world. So in Victor, we have a story of last 5-6 years, really trying to embed all the sustainability initiatives in our DNA, and it's happening. In my story, it's before joining Victor, as mentioned by Anna Maria, was from an automotive industry. The main differentiation, I should say, is the customer demand, because it's really necessary when you would like to drive your strategy, the perspective of the board, the perspective of the market. And in these two different industries, you see that the demanding industry as automotive is already leading the standards, already leading the market and all the initiatives. So things are happening a bit easier in that environment. When topic comes to the today, the industry is also demanding again, but not as much as automotive, and all the settings behind in terms of all the data that we have all need to collect and disclose and integrate them into our business plans is not so easy in this today's study, but it's happening. It's with all these small steps make a lot of sense. So I would also would like to come to that point during this review today together with Sarah, how we should take all these requirements, legal disclosures and so on, as a starting point without staying away and keeping them as a scary topic of the story that we have to manage during our daily business.
Yeah, so maybe then tying on to your introduction. So Sarah, I imagine Electrolux, large organization by itself, sustainability within that, a significant team, established processes, probably a lot of voluntary reporting already. You got the pitch to Wrightbus. Part of that probably wasn't exciting, something that you're like, hey, this is something I can really then put my mark on. But when you arrived, there maybe that was more of a whiteboard than an established process. So where do you start from that?
So yeah, I mean that's putting it dramatically, really. And I mean, don't forget, before that, I was at Unilever, and I think everybody knows really that part of the I'm just going to be honest, the nightmare in many respects that CSRD reporting is. I mean, Unilever was very successful lobbying for it because they basically use their own internal reporting standards to, share them with everyone else. So clearly, my the good and the bad of it, I've experienced for working for these large organizations. The thing about Wrightbus is, what is interesting is, before it was owned by Joe Bamford, before that it was owned by the Wright brothers, so it was also family owned. So there is not really a tradition of well-established corporate governance. And then clearly the growth in the last year, I mean, the last few years, as I've described it, I mean, normally people, companies don't grow like that. That's really, it's really exceptional. But part of the reason why they hired me is that you realize you increasingly do need these processes. And part of it is investor related. And clearly the fund as a whole will want to use Wrightbus and the success of Wrightbus to communicate the type of company that we are. But because most of our customers ultimately are local authorities or joint authorities, clearly increasingly there's a requirement to be able to report on your processes, and they are clearly, because when you grow so quickly in 5 years, not as developed as they could be. So I think it's very interesting when it comes to supply chain management, when it comes to policy infrastructure. It's a really big opportunity to drive that. And I guess to your point, and we briefly touched on this earlier, it's very interesting for me because I have always worked for these large organizations where all of this has been existing for years, is actually seeing how crucial governance is. Because unless you have it, I don't think I'll ever be able to really create the space to have the right conversations about, how we manage our supply chain, how, we will drive social value and all the really good stuff that you want to get to. I think it's very, as I said, it's very interesting for me and very invigorating to see that something usually that, as a sustainability professional, you talk about governance, you don't really jump up and down and think that's sexy stuff, but actually, really really seeing actually the accountability that it drives is core and center at what we do. So the trick is now just to do it in a way that isn't over bureaucratic, but allows for accountability, but also for companies to have continued ability.
And I guess the upside of maybe having a bit more space to move in, and whether that means because you get to think about the new process to be installed, but also because you have lesser, perhaps external requirements because you're privately held, gives a bit more space. So what are some of the upsides of the space that you've then, claimed or created?
Yeah, no, I think that, and we talked about this the other day, didn't we? I mean, when I look at the reporting as a whole, and you look at CSRD, I think having been an advocate for so many years, we have to treat, sustainability, ESG data like financial data. I mean, we have slightly, it's hopefully a transition period, but I think we've gone slightly too far, where certainly when I look at Electrolux, it's the tail wagging the dog, where you're reporting for reporting's sake, and you're not actually reporting to drive the right strategic choices, because that's why you should be doing it, just as you do with financial data. Clearly, there's an element of transparency, but it is basically to drive the impact and the business growth in the way that you'd want to. And so it is a luxury. And also, when you look at, let's see how you guys react to it. But when I look for many years, the obsession with the Science-Based Target Initiative and setting targets is that it is important, of course, to set targets. It is important to measure what is important. But on the other hand, I would also say that I've just told you the story about the growth of Brightbus, and there wasn't a single target there. So I think it's a really, really good moment for our profession to really think what is important here, and are we not strangling ourselves with the requirements partially that have been put in place. And I guess that's what Omnibus is about a little bit, isn't it? Because the realization that actually is it driving what you wanted to drive. I don't know whether that's your experience, but yeah.
Yeah, in our case is also, let's say, maybe similar. When topic comes to the all those regulations, all those requirements from the different frameworks and so on, we try to start with what we have, what to understand what we have on hand, and how to design them with the requirements that we have to disclose. Because otherwise, it's the main challenge comes from my perspective is to convince all the stakeholders throughout the organization, take the commitment of the board. So we try to start to replicate them, show them that what they are already doing is already the requirements by different frameworks or disclosures. The point that I like with these kind of frameworks or regulatory regulations is that they are enabling us for a structure. So what we are already doing is already part of all those requirements, which is nice. So, instead of keeping people afraid and staying far from all these changes, we are trying to show them that the daily activity they are doing is already part of it, and start from there. Coming to the targets, yeah, we have we are managing everything with the KPIs that is also enabling them to see their progress and to justify what they have done is proven already itself is the right thing in case you have the progress on the targets that you are having. So yeah, this is, I think, very important that we familiarize all the stakeholders in the organization with the activities that they are already doing is already part of the main goal.
And that's maybe a good segue to, like, one of the benefits of being the digital infrastructure, so the software platform behind that, is that we get to see how different organizations have organized both the reporting and data gathering, as well as the in the end the final outputs. And one of the things that we with Witter have really seen is that local rolling out and really enabling each of the what you call the local champions. And it's just great to see that every time zone is covered by the by the entities that you've set up in the software. But can you speak maybe a bit more to those local champions and how are they helping you?
When I was listening the presentation of PwC colleagues, I was also putting my check to my list. Okay, maybe we are doing something good already, also justified with because our model in Victor is also in that hybrid area where you have seen in the presentation. So we have a centralized function and of course cascaded roles at the local plants as called champions. So we have an executive management board, not only belong to sustainability, but everything on the top. And reporting this board, we have a sustainability steering committee. In sustainability steering committee, we have representatives from each different function, including finance, legal, operations, HR, and so on. So when topic comes, one of the questions, I think it was you maybe, it was you regarding this cybersecurity topic and all, do we need to have all different committees? In our case, we are really taking all those role leaders into this committee. So they are already becoming a membership and representative of all those topics in the steering committee. And after steering committee, we have this centralized function with a fixed number of people. We are not a lot. And we are just arranging in every plant a sustainability champion role. This champion role is belongs to different functions. I mean, they are from cross functions, not only the ESG or sustainability leaders of the site, but sometimes from purchasing, finance. In every department, we have these champions. So it allows us to embed sustainability requirements really becoming part of their daily routine. You know, otherwise, if you give them, it's like, this is your new jacket. One day they have it, the other day, maybe due to the routine of the activity of every day, it sometimes remained abundant there. So this is what we are trying to avoid. That's why we have this champion role assignment. I think it's working quite well. Needs a lot of investment on our people. So as I can simply say, first, everything starts with embedding our strategy into the business plan of the board. So it become really part of their daily activities. And then we really try to take our people commitment and their events, because we assign those as champions, but they are the purchasing guy, finance guy. They're not really interested at the beginning to be the champion of that topic. But now day by day, training activities, awareness activities, and not only one way from our side, they are also now aware that we are expecting a lot from their role, because they are the point of expertise in their field. So we are also seeking for their feedback regarding the new trends, the developments of the market, industry connected to their area. And this is, how we build the governance, let's say, in Victor for sustainability management.
And is that similar to what you have done, about to do?
No, it's really interesting because I was listening to you, and I think when I look at previous companies I work in, that would have been very much how you do it. I guess when you start with a blank canvas, where, you know, clearly there are accountabilities, but in terms of champions, I think most of it is not so much driven by reporting requirements and more driven by where is the value. So when I look at, how do you change the procurement function? I know that you are not going to be able to compete, especially as you want to grow internationally in Australia and other places, unless you can show how you manage your supply chain and how you do due diligence. So that then allows me, because that is linked to selling buses. That then allows me with procurement a conversation in terms of why they need to do due diligence in a different way and step it up and do the auditing. But I guess when you start with a blank canvas, you don't start with, you need to report this because those are the requirements. It's more, yes, you do, but also unless you do this, investors or customers will not choose you, which is a slightly different take to yours, and that is just the nature of our ownership structure, that we just don't have the heavy burden yet that other companies will have.
No, for this, I totally agree. I mean, as they are having the final target regarding to trade savings, and the business has to run on the other side, the final goal of reaching their sales target, procurement targets shouldn't stay away, and they are all combined. And to convince and to get their engagement, all those other functions, engagement is necessary, that they are finding that room where they can combine with the final goal of the organization and the sustainability goals. When they see this benefit, oh, okay, there is a new customer opportunity while having this output from sustainability, then it becomes really a reality on their chat.
Yeah. And I think it makes it more interesting for our function, doesn't it? Because otherwise, you just work in the legal function, and because you do want to be central to how the business growth is managed. So I do think it's a good thing. But yeah.
And then maybe I think we're about to head to Q&A, but obviously this was deemed the customer spotlight. So would love to understand, maybe Perry, you're saying that central team is quite lean. It's two folks sitting in the central sustainability organization. So how have you made the internal pitch in terms of working with digital solutions like key ESG and seeing that as essential to your work?
I in purpose underline that point, that we are quite a lean organization, because sometimes new colleagues or plans organization that are willing to do more regarding sustainability topics are having a headache regarding this organization and new headcount, how to manage, how to get all those stuff in place and so on. But I think from my perspective and experience so far, we don't really need an army of people in the central function of this organization, as it will never help to us, when we need to embed really the roots of the organization, all these requirements. So then it becomes a question fairly to everyone's mind. You are over there, army of people. Why I still need to fight for it on the plan? So this is one wrong mindset that we have to avoid. That's why I don't believe it's necessary that we have a lot in the central function, but also it is an activity that needs to be done in like of our organization. Of course, we are in a manufacturing field, so in like of our in the organizations like us, things needs to be done on the site on Gemba. So in this case, we really need also autonomous people on site who can drive all the activity, and who can really take the also the authority of the activities on site in order to execute on the expected level. That's why we really focus on our people on site. As we have several sites, we started with the main factories in order to get them as a pilot. Design what we need to do. Of course, every country and every organization has unique properties as well, on the top of with their value. Then we sometimes need to work a little bit more customized, sometimes keep all the alignment with the central function and with their values. But in the end, they know very well today that its sustainability performance is coming from the factories. And we have opportunity also, as we are already 30, benchmark between us. This is also nice, on addition to the, of course, external market and all the other trends that we can follow from outside, but also internally we have several opportunities to benchmark between us. This also helps for Chinese colleagues that are colleagues from Europe with their side. So things are not happening in different regions in the same speed, as you know well. So we are also finding the opportunity of taking this balance between the different regions. But I think it's happening quite well. When we use digital solutions like ESG, it helps us in the way of unique source of data. So this is very important, and we can really spend more time on our decision-making processes, on our strategic activities, right, Sarah? So we are not really spending too much time to ensure the data quality, ensure the data source. So this is really necessary, especially in international one, more than one side. It's becoming really difficult to manage everything on the central function. So digital solutions are helping us a lot on that point.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, clearly we are, you know, mainly UK focused and much smaller entity, but you know, Rifus obviously is a big manufacturing business, but there are, you know, a number of portfolio companies that, you know, as a group we use the ESG platform, and that exactly allows you to benchmark and also to see which companies are, in terms of their carbon reduction ratio, are performing adequately and where there might be opportunities. And I think it's a really good tool. And as you say, it frees up time to help the. Yeah.
And maybe the topic of the suppliers, because we started so far to really perform the sanity conclusion and reliable data. I mean, in Victor, we are already catch some point of the story. So now it's time to, with all the data that we have on hand, quite well, reliable so far. So it's now, up to now, we were also working on supply chain, of course, but from now on, we should focus more on the scope reduction activities, as it is probably most of you are already in a similar condition, is the main driver of our emissions. So when topic comes to the scope 3, purchase goods and logistic topics, again, you need to be in a streamline with your supply chain, which is not possible to manage manually. I think again on that field, digitalization will also be a key point that we have to embed in our activity, because manually so difficult, right?
Great, and that's very much in line with our roadmap discussion later today. Opening up to the room, any questions you have on either the profession, on day-to-day, large company, small company? I know there's different stages that people in the room are at. Any thoughts, any questions you have? Well, you're in the front, that's great. So I can actually walk over very easily.
Hi, Jordan McKeedy from CIS. I just had a question in regards to ESG solution platforms, using them to benchmark with your competitors or some of your customers. As there are a vast list of platforms or rating platforms such as MSCI, Sustainalytics, Sustainalytics, Fitch, that use different methodologies, would you say using the platform would be robust, or to be your own internal due diligence process?
I have to be honest that we haven't really used platforms really. You know, clearly we've been doing our own materiality analysis, but it's also a little bit different because, you know, it's quite hard to benchmark ourselves against our peers because, you know, BYD, our peer, but obviously our massive company that it's quite hard to compare yourself to. So it's less relevant for me. Or then you talk about joint authorities, but there again, you know, a materiality analysis in terms of doing desktop research has you know, given us that qualitative edge. But I don't know whether for you it's more relevant.
Yeah, maybe I can say some experience on that. I think from our view, it's important that if you are seeking for a solution for yourself, the first thing we have to know is what we need to reach. So the platform that I would select should be easy to customize for myself. Because the main challenge for me in my past experience, also in automotive, as I mentioned at the beginning, is more demanding. So sometimes you are not say obliged, but encouraged to use the customer solution, so you don't have chance to select. And in those solutions that are widely known as a name that I will not mention now those names, but sometimes not so easy to manage, sometimes not so easy to adapt, not so easy to bring all your stakeholders at that level to understand that solution. So at that point, that solution becomes another challenge for you. So in order to avoid this kind of risk, because the main purpose of a software is to help your activities, right? So it should be customizable. It should be simple to operate and more effective with the outcomes of reporting, data entry, if you are entering. If the topic is an international company like us, the main point is the tasks assignment. So if I need to collect data on one point, but from 13 different sites, software should help me to collect all these data and consolidate easily in the final condition. That's the most important part, because as I said, if it is not flexible enough, then it becomes another headache for you. Also because you invest, you couldn't change easily. Also because you present at the beginning in a very nice way, because you immediately would like to switch to a software solution. So my advice sincerely is you need to know what you would like to really get as an outcome from the software. I like simple solutions, simple but effective, so customizable and flexible. Of course, customer care is quite important, because during the homologation process of these kind of softwares, you really need the support of the developers. That's needs to be really fair and accessible all the time, at least at the implementation, in order to get the things done in the first time and the right way. This is what I can say. I hope helpful.
Good. It's just about linking sustainability factors and metrics in the business to drivers of financial and business growth and expansion, and making sure those metrics are really financially material when you're looking at sustainability. Yeah, and I think that's the key, and I think that's the key for all of us to figure out, because I'm not saying that companies would have, well, how can I say this? I certainly think throughout my career, there are companies I've worked in, or there was a time where the assumption was it being the right thing to do is enough to merit investment. And I think those days are over. So I think unless it drives growth, you're not going to get the investment that you know you want to reach your targets, but ultimately to be integral to growth. So I think the sweet spot is really to understand the demand. So, you know, in my case, clearly the company has worked out that the growth comes through zero emission buses. So in that respect, it's quite an easy conversation, but clearly there are additional investments that then are required. And I think being there early on, in working very closely with the business development team, with the financial team, with the procurement team, to really understand what the growth potential is, either whether it's risk mitigation, what we talked earlier with the supply chain management, or you look at my company at the moment, you know, we're getting to the end of the first generation batteries. Is there any value in terms of new business models that we can develop? What will happen when all of these batteries come to end of life? Because that will happen within the next couple of years. So I think it's always putting at the center how it will drive growth by having very close alignment with a CFO, who is, I think, the most important partner in it, would be my biggest advice. Whereas again, reflecting on my career, where it used to be very much a standalone, very big central sustainability function that used to drive the agenda because it was the right thing to do. But ultimately, in a broad discussion, unless you can always show how it drives growth and where the demand is coming from, it's very difficult. I give you a really good example about the demand question. When I was at Electrolux, and there was even a third-party tool where you could calculate as a consumer at point of purchase, if you buy the most energy efficient appliance, how much the financial savings would be over the lifetime. So literally it's like £2,000 if you buy the most efficient tumble dryer. But clearly it would cost you a little bit extra. It's maybe £150 more. And the demand isn't there because people at that moment, even though you can say to them in 10 years' time, you will be better off, at that moment don't want to spend the extra money. So I think it's just a very good pivotal moment for our function to keep on stress testing our assumptions, because otherwise it will be a compliance function. Because you obviously have standards and you have regulations and you have to report against them, you have to invest them. But that's compliance, that's not using it as a differentiator and a growth model. So I think it is for all of us to commercially be really aware and identifying opportunities. I hope that answered your question, but that's like the best examples I have that have worked and have not worked.
Yeah. In our case also, in practical, what we did is based on our material topics, we really tried to link those material topics into the financial risk assessment process that is already running before all these merge coming with sustainability. So maybe also in your company, if there's already a financial control department having this risk assessment, so it's already there. So we just link all those material topics results into that risk assessment, so they are automatically become part of the financial risk assessment. Based on that, which is annually updated and which is continuously reviewed by the board, become in front of them. Then topic comes to the investment in Victor. Sorry. I was not aware that the mic was not it's so close. So when topic comes to the investment, after all these materiality process has been completed, we also include in our, because we are we are product manufacturing companies, we are using that project charters in order to represent the business case for the CapEx approval or investment approval. In those business case presentations, we also add the impact for the sustainability, financial impact. So all those links also have been stated inside of our processes. So now it's automatically becoming another evaluation point of the sustainability impacts when topic comes to a new investment. So our board is also informed about the sustainability impact part of that potential investment. This is how we do today. Thank you.